The United States of America. Unity and oneness is what we're made of. One nation under God, it's plain to see. We're showing the whole world what a country should be. United we stand in America, hand in hand in America, together as one in a land that we love. United we stand in America.
Good morning, everyone out there. Welcome to Changing Times. It is Wednesday, the 17th of, is this the 17th? 18th. It's the 18th of June. I think Friday will be the first day of summer. So, and it's beginning to feel that way with heat and everything like that out there. So that's what somebody told me yesterday. So I hope that's correct. It's feeling.
What's really difficult is I
It's
was
feeling like
in
summer.
the big box store yesterday and they had the Halloween decorations out.
Oh yeah, well they always speed up everything, but
It's not summer yet.
no. But we are live at Thax Media Group headquarters in Springfield, Missouri, and this is show number 211. And we've got a great show lined up. I'm Lynn Morris.
And I'm Dr. Mary Byrne.
Yes, you are. I tell you what, Dr. Mary Byrne, and you've been busy up in Jefferson City, and we'll get a show just about what you're doing with education with the Senate in Jefferson City at some time. And we've got Dennis, our producer, is working on Mary's microphone right now, so we'll get that all. Yeah, so we'll get that all fixed up. But we have a great guest, and our show today is we're going to talk about a current event. We've got obviously a very dangerous situation going on in the world. We've got Israel and Iran, obviously that's a serious problem. It's been a problem for years, and continues to be one. Maybe this will be the end of it. We hope resolution will happen, and this definitely could draw the United States into it. And one of the things I was talking to Jim Whining, our CEO, last night on the phone. Enjoy visiting with him, and one of the things that Americans can do, and everyone around the world, if you feel inclined, is to pray, because this is a serious time. It wouldn't be hard to start World War III right now. And none of us want that. I don't know, I can't hardly imagine anybody wanting to have a war with the devastation that we've seen. And this country has always been blessed because we haven't had, except for 9/11, we haven't really had an attack on our own soil. And so we don't know what it's like. Every time that my wife and I have gone to Europe, I think 4 times, I've looked at different buildings, and you can tell where the war destroyed the buildings, and then how the new brick was a different. They tried to make the brick look the same, but it never looked the same. And I could kind of see the layers of different wars and things going on. And we've not ever done that, had to put up with that in the United States. And so we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the parade, the military parade that a lot of us watched over the weekend. We're going to talk about patriotism. We're going to talk about peace through strength, which is what the president believes in. I think a lot of people should believe in that. We're going to talk about patriotism, why it's so important to be patriotic. We're going to talk about our flag. So our guest today is Colonel Tom Marty. How are you doing today?
I'm good, Lynn.
Well, I tell you what, you and I, you went to SMS.
I did.
And you were in ROTC.
I was.
And you're a colonel. And you
I
spent
was.
27 years. Well, you're still a colonel.
Colonel retired.
Colonel retired. You're once a colonel, always a colonel.
Well, they say that was then, this is now. Yeah.
And was it 27 years?
Yeah.
Yeah, 27 years in the military. And then you worked for the federal government for, what, 11 years?
Well, about 18 all told.
18. Oh, my gosh. I don't want to short
bureaucrat.
you probably had a lot of fun, so I don't want to.
What did you do in federal government work?
The majority of that I did when I retired, about 18 years as an inspector general for the Department of the Army.
I figured you still stayed in the military culture,
Right,
but you worked at a civilian job.
right. I worked Fort Belvoir, Virginia, which is right up above, butts up against Mount Vernon up in Northern Virginia. I was the inspector general up there for a good number of years
Wow.
as a civilian.
Well, you and I have one thing in common. I went to SMS pre-pharmacy and about the same time you did, and you did all 4 years in ROTC. I did 2 years because I was doing pre-pharmacy. I thought I was going to do ROTC at University of Missouri when I went to pharmacy school. I think I told you that.
Right.
But they didn't have the program. I was disappointed because I thought, well, if I'm going to go in the military, I want to go in as a second lieutenant. I
Right.
want to go in as a commissioned officer, and I really wanted to go into some type of health care in the military because that was my background, what I wanted to do. But don't know what that would have really, if that would have helped, worked or not. But I didn't go. So, but you got an interesting career and things like that. We thank you for all your service.
Oh, you're
the
welcome.
service that you did in the military and the service that you did working as a bureaucrat, but you had a very important job. I think the Inspector General is probably a very important job.
Well, I certainly thought I was important. No, not really. No. Well, they're all important,
But-
or they wouldn't
yeah.
have them on the
Yeah.
on the docket there. But,
Well,
yeah.
let's talk about, because there's a lot of controversy. There's a lot of controversy in everything that we could talk about. And this show, we try to be positive and we try to have positive solutions.
Change,
Yeah.
difference makers, we call them.
Yeah,
Difference
yeah,
makers.
you are certainly a difference maker. We've never had anyone on our program that's not a difference maker. Not everybody's a difference maker out there either, but thank goodness we have a lot of difference makers that make a lot of difference to a lot of people and to our country. And we try, because we're seen in all 50 states. Jim was telling me last night, we got a lot of people in a lot of countries watching and following our show. It's amazing. He was naming off some of the countries. I probably need to get Jim back on the show where he can tell us, because he looks at all that data and stuff like that. But we're really reaching a lot of people, but we try to tell the honest, positive truth. And
The unvarnished truth.
yeah, I think, because I'm an old guy and I don't like all the news at night. Local news is always negative. A lot of the radio's negative, the print's negative, everybody's negative.
And it's scripted.
Yeah, and so I rather have somebody. How could we have hope? And hopefully we got a lot of faithful people out there that know faith and understand Jesus Christ as their Lord and Savior. But the problem is we have a lot of people that don't, and those are the ones that really have anxiety and depression and all kinds of mental issues because they don't have a foundation of faith. And so hopefully we can get some of that changed and stuff like that through time. But let's talk about the military parade. Did you get to watch the military parade?
I had a commitment on Saturday and got to see little bits of it. And if you've been in the military and you've done your share of pass and reviews, is what they would call that, marches, and they get to play in the patriotic tunes, and it gives you goosebumps. It's fun to do, even on a hot day. So it's impressive to let the rest of the country see where their tax dollars are going.
So
Yeah.
it's the 250th anniversary of the Army.
And I
Yes.
did not see all of those.
Oh, well, my point is, I read an article that was trying to cast shade, you might say, on the Trump administration because his birthday coincided with this 250th anniversary celebration. And they said the Air Force and the Navy weren't there. I said, well, think about that. We didn't have an Air Force 250 years ago.
No.
And it would be very difficult for the Navy to show up on the field. So
Right.
They might have had an Army-Navy game. That
Right.
might have been good.
Right.
But yeah, they're kind of stretching the boundaries, trying to smear our current administration by saying he was using the military to exert his own image, his own muscles. And I'm like, no, they having events coincide, you know, it would have been caving, I think, to the critics if Trump said, well, we'll do my birthday on a different day.
Right.
You know, who needs that? Just deal with the realities and stop this negative slam of he's the commander in chief.
Right.
You know,
Right.
he had a right to be there, even if it wasn't his birthday.
Right.
Well, especially if it wasn't his birthday, because he's the commander in chief.
Sure.
So I have this, you might say, I grieve that the military gets this press that's negative, because that was one of the comments too, is that it was disorganized and really you might say, second-rate show. But I think that was people who were never in the military, and as armchair observers, just believe that as journalists, it's their duty to criticize, not to actually report, but to criticize. So, what was your take on it when you watched the segments of the parade or the day's event? It was actually a day's event.
Right. Well, certainly proud to see being a veteran of the Army, but every branch of the military is great. I love them all, and we have our, rivalries, if you will.
Sure.
I love them all.
Friendly rivalries, yeah.
Well, most of them are. But no, they are. They're all great, and it's the Army's birthday. The Marines are recognized, and they're out there out front quite a bit. Navy has their Fleet Week up in New York City every year. That's a pretty big affair. The Air Force, they're usually too busy playing golf to get involved in much, but groups like the Blue Angels and the Thunderbirds, and the Blue Angels are comprised of Marines and Navy. They do such a great service whenever any of the events that they attend, and the recruiting aspects of that. So, as I said, I did not watch a lot of it. I see nothing wrong with it. It's the Army's birthday.
Yeah.
So Donald Trump was born in or around that time. Well, I don't think he had a whole lot of control of that. People are going to say things about him, regardless of what he does, and they seem to bounce off of him. But what I saw was impressive. I started out as a tanker in the Army, and there were a fair number of tanks rolling down Constitution Avenue there with their rubber tracks, I presume. No, I'm very proud of my time in the military, but I'm proud of everybody that served in the military honorably. And I was involved in recruiting a good bit for a while, and 90 events, static displays with helicopters and shopping centers and schools. And you would talk to veterans, all branches. And every now and then you'd get one that would badmouth their time in the military. And maybe 99.9% of the people I ever spoke with who are veterans loved their time in the military. Got something out of it, maybe didn't want to stay, had a few bad things to say, but if you ain't been there, you don't have the right to badmouth.
You know, I had
Anybody that badmouthed it, I will tell you, they were probably nothing but problems when they were in. So people love their time in the military.
I have a friend up in Kansas City who, because of, you might say, a dysfunctional environment she was in as a high school student, got herself into trouble. And the consequence was that she was told, you will join the ROTC. That's to gain discipline. And she said, it's the best thing that happened to me. Because she did learn discipline. She learned how to be a team member. And she learned to respect herself as well as her colleagues.
Right.
It changed her behavior dramatically, and she has not just no regrets, but a pride in being associated with that because it was the character builder she needed. So, and I think my husband would have said the same thing.
Yep.
Being raised in the military, his father, of course, was a military chaplain. So there was never a day even after his father retired, that he wasn't reminded that this is our culture, this is what we do, and I am grateful for the character formation that he had, not just from his family, but from being from a military family.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I assume you have children?
I do.
And-
Four
and
daughters.
so what's their response to having been a military family?
Well, two of the daughters actually graduated over here at SMS. They were both in ROTC. One
There you are.
retired after 20 years as a major in the Army Reserve, nurse. The other one was a nurse also. She spent her time in. I have two sons-in-law who were retired military. One lieutenant colonel, aviator. The other one retired sergeant major, not shabby. Older brother was a 30-year career major general. Have an ex-wife who retired from the Army Reserve after 20-some odd years. I have I have two grandsons who were in the military. Three grandsons who were in the military. Two are still in the Guard. I have two nephews who were in the military. So, but in the Marty family, we have about 138 years of service with the Army. So that's pretty much, I've summed up what my kids think of the military.
Yes.
I think that's fantastic, and I think that is probably representative of our country, that we have a lot of families that exactly
it's
what
a
you do.
family
Yeah,
commitment.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, and I think that is so great. One of the things, Janet and I watched the whole parade. I sat there in awe. It made me think of Vietnam. Some of the friends I had that was in college, high school or college, obviously went to the Vietnam War. You served during the Vietnam War. You were a helicopter. Did you fly helicopters?
Flew helicopters.
Yeah, and thank you for that. That's not easy either. So you know, I everything I saw, I heard that, and she's the historian. She knows a lot more about history than I do, but I love history. But one of the things I thought was interesting, if young people, well, even older people, but if the young people had watched that parade, they would have learned a lot about history of our country that they don't teach today.
Right.
They've altered teaching. And that's a shame, because if you don't really understand your history, you could repeat something and do something wrong. I think there's really some serious problems. But I thought one of the things they said was interesting was we had a military before we had a government.
Correct.
And so, you know, a lot of people don't think about that. And had we not, before all the other military branches, had we not had the Army, and had they not been so good at what they do, and had they not had God on their side, we wouldn't have won those wars.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think about all those protests they were showing over the weekend. They were supposed to be peaceful protests. I always think about, well, there's no way that you could have been in all those cities doing those protests had you not had the Army and the military of different branches winning all those wars.
Correct.
I mean, so we are giving them the freedom to, like we talked about before the show starts, to burn our flag.
Right.
They say that's freedom of speech.
Freedom of
Some
speech.
other countries would put you in prison forever if you burnt their flag.
Right.
Right. we don't give them the freedom to destroy other people's properties. That's not the point. The point is they do have freedom of speech.
Right. Right.
And so I was proud of Governor Kehoe when he preemptively said, we're going to discharge the National Guard just to keep order,
Yeah.
to make
Yeah.
sure nothing gets out of hand.
Yeah.
because they did threaten to do that.
Sure, and the National Guard is another one of those branches that are so important to the security of our country, and they do so many great things, and so we honor them too. Well, so let's kind of go ahead and get into what's happening today. People are watching every day. A lot of people don't understand it. Israel just less than a week ago attacked Iran, and they're trying to get rid of the nuclear. They got, 3 or 4 different places where they got their nuclear plants, and they're trying to get a nuclear bomb. They're trying to get a bomb. Iran wants to get a bomb, and if those type of people get a nuclear bomb, we definitely could see end times coming, and a lot of people either killed or injured, and just all over the world. So their mission, whether it be Israel or the United States, is to prevent that. I think that's probably a pretty good thing. What do you think about the fact that they are now, Colonel Marty, they are trying to get rid of all the, and of course I think they're smart. They know, the generals and leaders are very smart. They freed up the airfields. They've got everything where they now can go in and attack much safer. But I think they pretty well eliminated everything but the nuclear area that they've got in those bunkers that's so far down. What do you think about all that's going on?
Well, probably the first thing I think of is, Donald Trump gave out his feeling to it the other day, and it's so true in every involvement. Unconditional surrender is what you want.
Yeah, and that's
You
what
saw
he's-
that in World War II. And in any of these talks, I'm all for détente when it comes to certain things. But these guys, all you got to do, and the Iranian people are good people.
They are
They're
good
well
people.
educated. It's a tremendously high culture country, historically. So just as it is with China, we don't hate the Chinese people. We hate their
Right.
government.
Right.
But they're whack jobs over there, and they've got a lot of supporters. And one supporter, without mentioning a name, who in their right mind would have allowed them, given them so much money a few years ago so that they could develop a nuclear power system.
Yeah.
I'm a sociology major, so I can't
Yeah.
tell you what nuclear power is. But no, I think you've got to have an end state. And you talk to the military, the 4-star, 3-star generals, secretaries of defense, the bigwigs. You got, where are we going? If we're going in here, what's our goal? What's our objective? And the objective's got to be is to get them to surrender, not say, hey, we promise we will do this. No, you got to get them to put their hands up and throw down their weapons. In this case, I believe, their nuclear bomb is the unconditional surrender. And the only way to do that is, I guess, the same way I'm looking at Truman back in World War II. Not a tough decision, because you're going to kill a lot of innocent people. And I think we love our fellow humans.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only way to do it. Take them out once and for all. And Israel, they're out there hanging out there by themselves. They have some Arab, Muslim countries that support them. They're not going to say it publicly.
That's right.
But Iran is, they're no good. They're evil people, and they need to be dealt with. And nobody wants to get into a war. Never met a soldier, Marine, airman, sailor that likes to be shot at, wants to go in and kill people. That's not their design. That's not their desire. But they signed on the bottom line. So the country says you're going, so you go. And you don't find any atheists in the foxholes.
That's right. That's right. Well, we won't mention that president, but I think I could be wrong, but I think that the United States gave about $1.5 billion, not million, but $1.5 billion to Iran, hoping that they would not be our enemy. And they're probably our number one enemy for the United States. They always say death to America, death to Israel, but they also don't like Europe. They don't like, I don't know actually who they like, but they are a group, and their leader is 86 years old. And so I don't know how mentally fit he is, but he's old enough that he's not going to change his ways. And what I respect about President Trump is he's actually, when he says something, and he wants peace first. That's always going to be his choice, is peace. And he wants to have some type of an agreement with them. But he's not going to, his patience will run out. I think Iran's in trouble.
Well,
I don't think
it's
they
not
can,
just what our administration thinks. The Iranian people want an end to this regime.
You're right.
When the Shah was in charge, there was no supreme leader of the church in charge of the government, but that's how it works now because of Ayatollah Khomeini.
Right.
And the people are terrorized. The people of Iran are terrorized by this government, not just other countries they've identified as the enemy, but I've gotten direct information from people in Iran, and they are very hopeful that this will be the last time. Yeah. So it's kind of difficult because Israel is always, by the liberal, I won't call them liberal, by the leftist media, they're framed as being aggressors, when actually it's a kind of self-defense. Iran means to eliminate Israel.
Sure.
The Iranian government. So this preemptive move to get rid of the nuclear capacity to eliminate Israel is self-defense, really.
Sure.
But it's not always painted that way.
Nope.
Yeah. But you're right. There's other Muslim countries that support Israel.
I think nobody ever quotes me, and that's fine. Years ago, I think, and I love Ronald Reagan, and I think bittersweet, good news, bad news, when that wall came down, that was a good news, bad news thing. My perspective, as long as you have two bullies on the block, you're in good shape.
Yeah.
Because people are going to line with one or the other. When you got one bully on the block, and that's what we became to the rest of the world, you attract an awful lot of haters. And they hate us for, it really isn't religion or economy. They just hate us because we are successful. We are our exceptionalism is cast many times as we think we are better than everyone. That term, in my vein, in my world, means our exceptional form of government.
That's
from
right.
freedom of religion to the three branches to the government to and that the military does not run the government, on and on and on. And that is, but as long as you have one bully on the street, this is going to happen. And somewhere along the line, somebody's got to take the hard stance.
That's right.
I hope he's
Exceptional
doing
is unique. That's when we use the term exceptional. It means it's a unique country. It's a government of the people
Well,
with a written constitution, which
yeah.
made us different than England.
Right.
Yeah.
right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But no, I hope we stay out of it. As I said, I've never known a fellow military member that was drooling to get into battle. They don't like the tracer rounds coming their way any more than they like punching them off. heading the
General
other way.
Flynn said the same thing. War is failure. War is failure of diplomacy.
Yeah, right.
And it is a last resort. We cannot allow ourselves, we have to defend ourselves. We cannot allow our people to be endangered. But it's because the politicians have failed in what they're supposed to be doing. So.
In
think
some
one-
ways, the best defense is a good offense.
That's right.
That's right. No, so I think the question today, and it'll probably be hopefully the next few days. I don't want to rush into this thing. I don't want to. Hopefully, President Trump, the leaders that surround him, will be patient and try to figure this out. I think there's a lot of Americans that don't want us to get into further war. But Israel, so there's I don't think that the accomplishment is going to be done if they can't get that last nuclear plant that's down in the ground. I understand it's way down in the ground.
Half a mile down, I
Half a
think.
mile
Yep.
down. So that's an unusual bomb that is going to do that. And
Actually, only the U.S. has
yeah,
that
the
bomb.
United States has that bomb because that's just another example of the superiority of our military.
Right.
Our military is the best in the world. It's always been the best in the world. And then I really believe that God has always had a hand on our military and on our people. And I think he had a real hand in developing the Constitution and giving these men ideas to come up with that still last today, stand today. But we have a decision because some people are saying, I've been studying, that Israel thinks they've got the bombs. They may have to keep doing it over and over again, but they think they can get into that without the United States help. But I imagine they would like to have the United States help and just get it over with quickly. I think their warplanes, the United States warplanes, can carry 2 of them. And it is said something like they are so precision bound that they can deliver one, and that will go so far down, and then they can deliver another one right in the same place to make it go further down to destroy what they need to destroy. So I'm sure that Israel would probably like to have some help. The president's talked to the leader in Israel just yesterday again, and I'm sure they're going to talk every day, and I'm sure President Trump's talking to a lot of people. So I guess we don't know what's going to happen yet, but I think something's going to happen in the next few days. And that's why I think people in our country need to know that prayer is so important at this point. Prayer is so important. And I also think people need to know God is on the throne and God is still in command. The person that created this world, created everything, is still in command. And so, again, I would urge people, if you don't know Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior, now's the time. Now's another really good time to get that figured out. I don't think this is the end of the world right now, but I think that this is very serious, and it could affect all of us. I was just thinking about last night. I was sitting out on the patio with my wife, and such a beautiful evening. And I was just thinking about, what if we were in Iran or Israel right now and you had sirens going off, and I have to leave the patio, go inside and get in my bunker, okay, my storm shelter. Well, I don't have a storm shelter, so I don't have any place to go. But wouldn't that be scary? Wouldn't that be scary? And our American people have not had to mess with that.
It is scary. I've run for the bunker several times in my life. Several things, or a couple things I'd like to interject. We hear things of the might that we have, that the weapon. The greatest thing that we hear about is the things that we don't hear about in the military. And just like with the Israelis, I just as soon not know, and I have no idea that they don't have people right now inside that nuclear facility who have infiltrated. Those people are so sharp, and where did they learn their intel steps? From the United States. Mm-hmm. And things that you mentioned about God and the military, as I said earlier, there ain't no atheists in the foxholes. On Christmas Day in Vietnam, I had a mission to fly a chaplain, and a chaplain assistant and a couple of the Red Cross, they call them donut dollies. We flew around several fire support bases so that the chaplain could visit with the soldiers.
Little morale booster there.
Well, sure, and chaplains are a big thing in the military, and they're terrific guys, and now they have a number of females. But this chaplain, and I'm not, I thought it was pretty cool. I shut down the aircraft, walked around the other side. He got out of the aircraft, and he was carrying a CAR-15, a carbine. And I think he was a major. I don't remember. I think I was a captain. But when he got off the aircraft, I said, "Chaplain," to the, so to speak, "Chaplain, what's with the weapon here? I thought you were the man of the cloth." He put his hand on my shoulder and he said, "My son, it's difficult to spread the word of the Lord when you're dead." And I thought, well, it made sense to me.
Yeah.
So yes, and the soldiers out there, I'm talking, we're taking this group out to the people who are out in the boonies. And if you don't think, and the chaplains have to be able to, I'm preaching to the choir from your background.
From my father-in-law. But you know, when Jesus was betrayed and going to the cross, he said, "The time will come when you have to pick up the sword again."
Sure.
It was during his presence on earth that there was an era of peace.
Right.
And yes, we work to bring about the kingdom, but it is a spiritual battle.
Sure.
And this kinetic war is just a reflection of that.
Yep.
We're not in heaven yet. And I don't think God expects us to actually, as the good shepherd, it's his job to protect us, not lead the lambs to the slaughter. So when you're in it and when you know the scripture, like when John was baptizing people, one of the soldiers said, "What should I do?" And he said, don't bully the people and don't, but he never said, leave the army. That because what Moses learned as a prince of Egypt was their military strategies. And going through the desert wasn't just a matter of his sheep herder skills, but also the military skills, the writing skills he learned having been in that, but in that palace and in that culture. David, when he was running from Saul's persecution, went into Philistine territory, and that's where he learned how to use Philistine weapons and brought that back to his army. But it was never an idea that you don't have to take up arms. You do. You want to be judicious about it. You don't want to fire the first shot. But you also can't live under a constant threat and thrive. You can't do that.
Right.
And so I as much as possible, I try to explain the wisdom of trust but verify, and carry a big stick, because bullies will respect that, and that's where we're at. So.
Hey guys, before we run out of time, we're going to let you wrap up and we'll say some words, but I want to talk about our two sponsors. We have two really great sponsors that make this show possible. The first one is Brad Pistow. He's a certified fiduciary financial planner located in Ozark, Missouri. And I do use him. I've got a lot of family members and business friends and just all kinds of people that actually use him. He has written 2 books, Safe Money Matter and Bulletproof. If you will call 417-581 9222, 417-581-9222. Lisa will probably answer the phone and they'll give you one of those books. They'll send you information. This man writes and contributes articles to Wall Street. USA Today. He travels all over the country and talks retirement planning. He's one of the best in the country, not the state of Missouri, but the country. He's licensed in many states. He has associates in all 50 states. He has a kind of a model that he always talks about, that he has plans that you will run out of your life before you run out of money. That's a pretty important thing, because a lot of us worry about, are we going to run out of money before we run out of life? As we get older, we have more medical expenses, a lot of things going on. We see the cost of living today rising and things like this. So retirement planning is extremely important. It's never too early to think about it. He is a tremendous asset, Brad Pistow, Trinity Insurance Financial Services. Our other sponsor is just equally as good, and my last 2 cars have come from him. That is John Whittaker, used to be with Youngblood Motor, and now it's Springfield Nissan, Springfield Kia. They're located at 3838 South Campbell. They have new cars, Nissans and Kias on one side, and they have used cars on the other side of the street on South Campbell. They have cars that I really like, the certified cars, the cars that they go through many, many points of inspection and making sure those cars are just like a brand new car when you go off the road. My last 2 cars with John Whittaker, 8,300 miles, 4,800 miles. So I don't buy a brand new car. I buy a car with very low mileage, and it saves me some money. But I have peace of mind that those cars are going to last a long time. So we highly recommend. Their phone number is 417-882-3838, 417-882-3838. You'll get Susan, they'll answer the phone. I pay attention. At my age, I pay attention who answers the phone and how courteous and how professional they are. Those 2 people, Lisa and Susan, are tremendous assets for their company. They'll get you to the right person. They'll make sure that you get help. And so I highly recommend those 2 sponsors. We have people that want to be our sponsor, but I'm always looking for the right type of sponsor that I can make sure that I'm 100% correct in recommending somebody. Very important when you recommend somebody and they let somebody down.
Right. You got it.
So that's important. And both of these guys actually are so helpful. We have asked them different fundraisers, and I watch them on TV all the time, that these guys are always out there helping people in the community. And so just great people. All right, well, we're going to go back on the air. And so, Colonel Marty, so what would you tell your military all those years, and then government service, and you know, we got this skirmish going on, very serious going on. What would you tell people from all your experience, and now you're living in Springfield area, and you know, you're just like us now, but you know a lot. So what would you caution people, tell people with this potential war that could escalate?
Well, you said this is not heaven. I was told Springfield was heaven, and I've enjoyed it here. And I guess it's certainly faith-based. Good triumphs over evil. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it doesn't happen right away. Look at World War II, what we had going on, how many people we lost. And that is the encounter, the war that I look at. Our World War II heroes, unbelievable. Fighting 2 world wars at one time seemed impossible against impossible forces, and yet we did it. Mm-hmm. And it's going back to American exceptionalism, pride, and the military has a way of, you mentioned the one young woman who went in with the service and how it made such an impact on her. We have a way of doing that in the military, all the branches. No one trains better than the military. No one prepares you for your job better than the military. I can only speak officially for the Army, but I know they're all the same way. So I say keep the faith. I personally feel we're in the right hands leadership-wise. I think we need a businessman to run our country. I think he has the right people in the right positions, respectful of PhDs and people with PhDs. And if I want advice in those particular fields, those are certainly the people I'd go to. I want somebody to run the military. I want somebody that knows something about the military, not some research wonk that we've had in there for years. So I think he has a great staff. Bear Bryant said, surround yourself with good people. He was rather successful.
Yeah,
I think our leader has done that, and I think to the American people, and you mentioned it earlier, Lynn, it's the greatest, strongest military in the galaxy.
yeah,
And the less you hear about the things that we can do, the better off you are and the more confident you should be. But you can see in a parade the might that's out there. That's where your tax dollars are going. And those guys and gals, believe me, they know how to put the rounds on the target. So keep the faith. Be proud in your country. I hate to see people burning our flag. It hurts me. So that's my message.
yeah, very good message, very good. So, last word for you, Dr. Byrne.
For me, one of the reasons I study history, I want to know what the founders were thinking. And I had a conversation with someone yesterday about how do you coordinate English language arts with social studies. And I said, don't say social studies in my presence. You do history, geography, government, and civics. Social studies is a broader umbrella, and it dilutes what we really need to know. And I said, you know what? What I would do with high school seniors studying government is have them read the Second Treatise on Government by John Locke. And because that's what Jefferson was reading. And what will stun the students and probably the teachers at this point is John Locke was citing the Bible as his reference for the arguments he was making about government. And so we really were founded, and our Constitution is founded on a biblical worldview, a la our founders reading John Locke. And everything about us should honor the creator of that word, because it's still his power and his goodwill to work through the United States to further the gospel, right? And so that's the plan, folks. It's to have a strong government of we the people who understand their thought origin being from the scriptures. Even if you're not a believer, know that that's where our thoughts, our ideas came from, and respect that. So you can't, I don't think you can fully honor our country without honoring the thought leaders and their desire for God's protection of this country. If you understand that, then you know you can't function without that protection. And you will implore your Creator to continue his protection. And yes, I said his. Because he's revealed himself as the Father. So get over it, okay? And that is the Father's role, is to take care of his children. If we get all of that together in our thoughts, it's God and country, then we can have peace, not only in our world, but in our minds. And that's my final word.
Very good, very good.
Could I pile
Yeah.
on just briefly?
Oh,
Sure.
sure.
I believe that one way to really, and I believe in God and all that he's done for us and will continue to do. But the way to really take back this country on the grassroots is to take over the school boards. So to read John Locke, you got to vote for people that'll sit on the school boards that'll allow the right things to be part of the curriculum in our school systems, wherever we are. That's my closing comment.
Well, and you two would get along just fine.
We
could
would.
We could do another session on just school boards, because
go.
I've served on the school board. I know how important it is, and we have some problems even in Springfield, Missouri. I mean, Springfield school system's failing That's where I went to school. Back when I went to school at Parkview, we had great schools and great teachers, and we didn't have the stuff that goes on today. In Christian County, where I live now, we have great schools, but we also have some problems. And so, but anyway, I want to just close by saying this. 9/11, 9/11, that was a time that was a bad time for our country, a first experience of being attacked on our own land. But there's always something good that you can find in something bad, and that was the patriotism that came out of 9/11. You saw people with flags in their yards. You saw just people saying the Pledge of Allegiance more, being patriotic, and then it kind of died down. And unfortunately, it died back down. I'm hoping that with this crisis that we have today, this war that's going on, I hope that we don't get drawn into it anymore. But if we do, so be it. It's meant to be. We'll win. We'll get over it. We'll protect our people, and we'll go on. But I'm hoping that there'll be another renaissance of patriotism. Patriotism, and because that's really what we need to have. When I was campaigning my last 15 elections that I've won, I always looked for homes that had flags. There's certain homes I did not ever go door to door on. I'm not going to tell you to talk about them, but there were certain doors. But there was also every time if a yard was mowed and there was flowers planted and there was an American flag out there, I definitely made sure I knocked on the door and talked to those people. Those are voters. They're my voters. And so we did that. But, hey, we're going to thank you for being here today. You are a difference maker. Thanks for your service. And we'll be back next week with another show.